There, that's the last of the schedule. Tomorrow is going to be a perfectly planned Mother's Day.
Sai, you know Mother's Day was last month, right?
Yes, I am aware of that, Master. But as you are probably aware, I'm here in the new world, but my mother isn't. She's back in the old world. Kind of hard to celebrate a holiday with someone when you're in two different continents. That's why I said tomorrow, when the Argosy takes me back to the old world for a few days.
Fair enough. So what have you got planned, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh goody, I'm glad you asked. Well, first, I plan on taking her to the botanical gardens near where we live so she can see all the beautiful kinds of flowers she loves. Then take a trip to the local aviary to see all the pretty birds she loves. After that, we take a break for a nice lunch. Then we go for a few rounds of bowling, a nice dinner after that, and we finish the night with a marathon of sci-fi movies.
I've met your mother before. She hates those kind of movies.
It's for the intro. Work with me.
So, what movies do you plan to watch?
We'll probably start things off with Lavalantula. You know, the movie about the fire-breathing tarantulas that come out of volcanoes?
Never been a fan of spiders myself, but at least it's just a movie, right? I mean, there's no way fire-breathing spiders living in volcanoes could be real, right? So who's gonna be the one to tell him?
Parenthood is difficult, especially in nature, because while humans have to worry about whether too many or too few hugs will turn their kids into psychopaths, animals, or at least the ones that raise their children, have to find the right balance of teaching their children the skills they need to survive, like hunting or protecting their territory, while also making sure they don't die in those pursuits, like getting trampled by the prey they tried to snatch or a rival ripping them to shreds. Probably the best way of animals learning in the wild is when their parents have them participate in the hunt, which is exactly the case with our monster of discussion for today. A mother who fights for her children with a fire as great as the volcano around her, Rakna-Kadaki. So, we have a lot to talk about when it comes to this sizable spider, but before we talk about her, let's talk about the spider baby in the form of the arachnoids. So, obviously, these are the baby forms of Rakna-Kadaki, though look more like ticks than spiders with orbs of web on their backs. They're usually seen on or very close to their mother, but a handful of braver ones often wander all throughout the lava caverns and sandy plains, to the point they have infested these locales. And despite being small, they are aggressive and formidable. They can slash you with their claws or spit globs of webbing just as powerful as their mothers that can trap you in place, leaving you open to either a follow-up attack from them or an attack from a large monster that sees you as easy pickings. But don't worry, that's unlikely, because they'll probably roast you alive with their fire breath first. Now then, back to the biggest spider herself. A member of the Temnoceran family, finally giving Nerscylla some company, Rakna-Kadaki is obviously a spider, and it has a hard, tough exoskeleton. But unlike Nerscylla, this exoskeleton is covered in hooks, and these hooks allow her to connect strands of silk that is remarkably durable and flexible across her body, to the point she creates a beautiful silk gown for herself that can defend her already durable carapace from harm, which is the reason many call her the Wandering Widow, as the gown looks like something a bride or a widow would wear. She has a pair of very large pedipalps in front of her, but more on those later. But the most fascinating, and also terrifying, thing about her is that she shares a similar trait to the pelican spider, in the form of a long, extendable neck that allows her to reach out and bite at prey or enemies at great distances. weaknesses. So, Rakna-Kadaki and her brood were rare monsters that lived in habitats far away from human settlements. To the point, sightings of them were almost unheard of. But due to the rampage caused by Ibushi and Narwa, the giant spider invasion began as countless Rakna-Kadaki and Arachnids left their natural habitat and made new homes in the sandy plains and lava caverns. And much like many other spider species, the male Rakna-Kadaki are much smaller, only about the size of the Arachnids, but with larger and more developed pedipalps. They will drop off and die after reproducing with the female if they complete the mating process, but it's much more common for them to be eaten by the Rakna-Kadaki or her Arachnoid children that are always with her. And one little fun fact about the males, they are considered a delicacy in some regions, tasting like roe and milt. So never eat them. So yes, Rakna-Kadaki are one of the few spider creatures that actually care for their young. They often mate with several males at once, so they're in a constant state of reproduction, able to spawn new Arachnids in a matter of minutes due to an organ called a glow gut, which stores high temperature flammable gas that rapidly incubates her eggs. And this is the reason for her fiery temper, hunting large and small prey for large amounts of food for both her and her young, and to be able to maintain her high body temperatures. And she is a caring and protective mother, closely watching out for her children and viciously attacking anything that threatens them. And with a threat level of 8 stars, they can fight off almost anything. For reference, Rathalos is only 7 stars. Another example of an 8-star threat level monster is Magnamalo. This spider is as much of a threat as a monster that fights elder dragons. So yeah, these guys see pretty much anything as food or a threat, so they're almost always on the attack. And their methods of attack are liable to leave you with arachnophobia. They can sweep out with their legs, slam their abdomen down on the ground, and charge backwards to turn their backside into a spiked bulldozer and, as previously stated, extend their necks to reach out and deliver powerful bites that will also ensnare their prey in webbing. While on that subject, they can also fire projectile beams of webbing in several directions at once to trap prey in nigh unbreakable silk. And obviously, they can use their claws to slam down on a target as well. You might think their massive size makes their reach short, but that's where they deceive you, as these claws are actually folded up and can unfurl to almost twice the beast's own body length. Or they can simply rear onto their hind legs and slam down with full force. Oh, but we're not done yet. I mentioned previously that the Empress spider has an organ called a glow gut that's filled with flammable gas. And while that organ is mainly used to incubate her young, it has numerous offensive uses as well. First off is the rather obvious one that she can breathe fire. And thanks to her extendable neck, she can breathe it all around her in a full 360 degrees. But then she also has several vents on the side of her body that allows her to expel flames from her sides, which she can do while walking to the sides, so there is no safe area to be around her. And that's before she gets her children involved. Oh, come on! So yes, as stated before, every day is take your kid to work day for Rakna, as she carries a number of her children with her at all times. They depend on each other for support, and the itsy bitsy terrors will actually join in the fight at their mother's command, either launching out globs of webs to restrain their target, leaving it at her mercy, or to breathe out a stream of fire before jumping back to the safety of their mother. So they get to feel like like they contributed and get valuable experience on how to take down prey when they're fully grown. And Rakna-Kadaki is very smart, and likely after seeing Kimura hunters getting around quickly with wire bugs, had the idea to throw her children with a line of webbing attached to them, at which point they reel her in at high speeds to clear distances in an instant and ram into foes. So, how do we commit arachnicide against these arsonists with exoskeletons? Well, their main weakness is ice, with water being decently effective, but all other elements are basically useless. And while Kadaki's exoskeleton is strong, they rely mainly on their silk gown to protect themselves. And while the garment is well made, it is largely held together by the hooks on Rachna's body, so breaking it in any two of Rachna's legs will cause the full thing to fall apart and knock her down. And while they are devoted to their mother, the Arachnids will abandon her once she is knocked down, so she is without her little helpers. At this point, she will wrap up her abdomen in a giant cocoon to seal in the heat from her glow gut to incubate replacements, so you have a brief window where it's just one-on-one. However, be aware she now can and will use this giant cocoon as a weapon. If her gown state was defense mode, this incubating state is attack mode. Also, when Rakna-Kadaki throws out Arachnoid to pull her across the battlefield, if you're brave, crazy, or stupid enough, you can cut the silk line, which will cause Rachna to fall and be left vulnerable. And since the Rakna-Kadaki can coat itself in beautiful silk armor, it only makes sense we made its armor equally amazing. The male armor is admittedly a bit less so, just a metal armor with some silk sheets over a few places, but the female armor is awe-inspiring. A gown as fit for the hunt as it is for a marriage. Like, Raven will be wearing this on our wedding day. So that is Rakna-Kadaki, an incredible monster and worthy addition to the exclusive class of Temnocerans. However, we aren't done with these eight-legged freaks just yet, as there is a subspecies, the Pyre Rakna-Kadaki. A noticeable difference from the original, this subspecies from the kingdom can be identified by its white exoskeleton, covered by a menacing black silk as if it stepped out of a pyre. Much like the original, its body is covered in spikes, only these are glowing orange from the heat radiating within them. In addition, its mandibles are noticeably more developed, and most strikingly, it has a pair of long, glowing horns on its head, giving it a truly demonic appearance. And of course, they have their own version of the Arachnoids, the Pyrantulas. Again, pretty noticeable differences from the Arachnoids, with gray bodies and beady white eyes. But most obviously, the webbing on their back is glowing orange. They usually just sit around and hardly move when not with their mother, but they are also extremely aggressive and will attack anything that gets close enough. They can also claw at you or spit globs of webbing, but rather than breathe fire, these tiny tick monsters deliver a sting in the form of a small explosive attack, thanks to the explosive gas within their body capable of inflicting blast blight. And now onto the mother. The Pyre Rakna-Kadaki was actually even more rare than the normal version of the species, usually found in the far reaches of the Citadel. They became a much more common sight during the Curio incident after they fled from their home to escape to flying leeches, making themselves at home in the scorching hot biomes of the lava caverns and sandy plains, as they hate cold weather. And they are just as hostile as the originals, needing a lot of food to sustain her body's high temperature and allow her to constantly incubate more young, while also being very protective of her children and fighting off any threats to them. But this time, time, the children take a much more active role in hunting and combat, as she commands them with roars to surround or latch onto the foe, at which point she attaches a flammable detonation thread to the babies, which they can ignite by striking her mandibles, hooks, or claws, burning the detonation thread down to the pyrantulas as they release their explosive gas, resulting in a massive explosion that roasts their prey like a glazed ham. So, for the most part, Pyre actually fights pretty similarly to the original, swiping kicks, claw attacks, and using their abdomens as a battering ram. However, their use of fire is a step above the original, unleashing sweeping jets of flames from its mouth along with the 360 attacks. But the biggest change comes when they reach their incubating state. Like the original, they trade speed for power, but as they slam down their junk in the trunk, they let out explosions thanks to a secondary organ known as a dull glow gut that makes blast powder. And as that Volvidon learned the hard way, they will throw their pyrantulas and try to blow you up with detonation threads. So how do you bring down the kingdom of the spiders? Well, this time water is your best bet, with ice being a backup and all other elements still not doing anything. However, Pyre relies a lot more on her children doing the dirty work and blowing up their prey, so it's in your best interest to take them down before she manages to detonate them. And this also makes it vital to break off the gown to make her children abandon her and force her into the incubation state, leaving her to fight on her own, as well as making her abdomen a giant weak point. And personally, I think her giant web ball looks awesome, like a giant ball of molten lava and rock. And one more important thing I should mention is what happens when a Pyre and normal Kadaki are in the same place. These two queens do not like each other and are constantly fighting to be the ruler of the kingdom of the spiders. The guild will send hunters out immediately to take down the two spiders, because a fight between these two high-level arachnids is sure to rile up other monsters of the biome and cause havoc in the surrounding areas. And yet again, both armor sets are amazing. I actually think the male armor is the more impressive one this time. Lots of regal flowing silk bits that give it a bit more of a noble feel. The female armor is still excellent as well, but not quite as elegant. A little more casual, and I'm not a fan of the asymmetric bits. And so, that is all the information we have on Pyre Rakna-Kadaki, which brings an end to our discussion on these arachnids. These have got to be some of the most unique and fascinating monsters we've ever seen. Aside from finally adding a new member to the Temnoceran line, they have so many impressive and unpredictable ways of fighting, breathing streams of fire, shooting it from vents in their sides, the extendable necks to bite you with, multi-directional silk streams, and of course having their children help them in combat. That's just not something you expect from high-level monsters like that. They're usually solo fighters, so Rakna-Kadaki and Co. coming at you as a group really catches you off guard. But more than anything, it's amazing to see these vicious arachnids being amazing mothers. Even if you have arachnophobia, I think the level of care they show their kids is something we can all admire. So there you have it, everyone. That is my lore on Rakna-Kadaki and her subspecies. I really love this monster. It's probably one of my favorites of Rise. Definitely easily in the top 5, maybe in contention for the top 3. They are just so cool. Like I said, they already look amazing. It's a badass spider covered in all these hooks, and the silk gown looks beautiful. And I think it's really cool and really endearing how they take care of their arachnoids and pyrantulas. It's always nice seeing these monsters, interact with other creatures, especially ones they are, not hostile towards, and the way they take care of their babies is just so sweet and endearing, and I love it. And it adds to their combat so amazingly, like throwing out their kids, having them breathe streams of fire, trap you up in webbing, or using them like how we use the wire bugs is just insane. And Pyre Rakna-Kadaki just looks looks so amazing. I love its darker color tone much more, and the glowing orange spikes and everything, and the horns. It really does look like a demon, and I love that so much. And it's cool how they use their babies as literal explosives. And like I said, I love its incubating state. Just looks like a giant molten ball on the back of her. It's really cool. And so for next time we have Bishatten, which I'm also looking forward to. That's probably my number 4 favorite. It and Blood Orange Bishatten. It looks so cool. The way they move on their tail is incredible, and how they twist and twirl around. Really cool. And I love their acrobaticness. There's just so much to love about them. I am really looking forward to showing them to you guys next time. I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully you guys are too. But for now, thank you all so much for watching. If you like this and want to see more, go ahead and slash that subscribe button. If you like this video, give a quick cut to the like button. Leave a comment down below. Share it around with all your friends. Be sure to click the notification bell so you never miss it when I upload a video. And be sure to follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Then, I'll see you guys in the next video. But until then, ladies and swordsmen, stay sharp.